Sheikh Rashid Al Mansur and Aisha Khan seemed destined for a fairy tale love story, until one hidden medical secret turned their royal wedding into a night of betrayal, blood, and disappearance. The city of Dubai was glowing with excitement as the news of Sheikh Rashid Al Mansur's grand wedding spread across social circles. Rashid, known for his wealth, charm, and powerful family connections, had always been the subject of admiration and envy. His upcoming marriage to Aisha Khan, a young woman from Mumbai, was being hailed as a union of beauty and prestige. Lavish preparations began months in advance. The Sheikh's palace was surrounded by event planners, decorators, and florists working day and night to create a wedding that would be remembered for generations. Gold-trimmed invitations were sent to politicians, businessmen, and celebrities across the world. Private jets arrived daily, carrying guests dressed in luxury brands. Aisha's arrival in Dubai marked the beginning of endless celebrations. The media followed her every move, fascinated by her transformation from a simple Indian nurse into the bride of one of the wealthiest men in the Middle East. Expensive designer gowns were flown in from Paris, and top stylists from London were hired to perfect her look. The engagement party was held at a 7-star hotel overlooking the Arabian Gulf, where fireworks lit up the sky, and the Sheikh presented Aisha with a diamond necklace worth millions. For the guests, it was a love story written in gold, a modern fairy tale where fate had blessed an ordinary girl with a royal destiny. But behind the cameras and flashing smiles, there were things unsaid. The Sheikh's family had done minimal background checking, too eager to finalize the union before gossip could arise. Aisha appeared quiet, almost shy, but there was something guarded in her eyes, something she tried to hide even while surrounded by the world's luxury. No one knew it then, but beneath the glittering surface, tragedy was already taking shape. Before her life turned into luxury and headlines, Aisha Khan lived in a small apartment in Mumbai's crowded Andheri district. She worked long hours as a private nurse, caring for patients in wealthy households. Her earnings were just enough to support her mother and younger brother after her father's death. Despite her struggles, she carried herself with quiet dignity and grace. Her beauty often caught attention, but Aisha was cautious with people. She had learned that kindness could be mistaken for invitation, and trust could easily be broken. A year before meeting Sheikh Rashid, her life took a devastating turn. During a routine health screening required by one of her employers, she was told she was HIV positive. The world around her collapsed in an instant. She had no idea how to face her family or her community. The diagnosis felt like a curse, one that would follow her forever. Doctors assured her that with medication she could live normally, but the emotional toll was heavier than any medicine could heal. She started her treatment quietly and decided to keep her condition a secret from everyone. Months later, while working at a luxury hospital that often treated foreign clients, she met Sheikh Rashid. He was visiting India for a medical charity project and was instantly drawn to her calm presence. He admired her intelligence and humility, unlike the high society women he usually met. Rashid began visiting the hospital more often, and soon their friendship turned into something deeper. Aisha knew she should have told him the truth, but fear took over. For the first time since her diagnosis, she felt truly seen and loved. She convinced herself that her secret didn't matter, that love was stronger than truth. But deep down, she knew it would one day cost her everything. As the wedding date approached, the atmosphere around the Al Mansur Palace turned electric. The family spared no expense to create what was being called the wedding of the decade. Every corner of the palace shimmered with gold accents, imported orchids, and handcrafted decorations from France and Italy. Luxury cars lined the grand driveway, and security surrounded the premises to manage the flood of guests, journalists, and curious onlookers hoping to catch a glimpse of the soon-to-be royal bride. Dubai's skyline lit up with billboards showing the smiling couple, symbolizing a fairy tale come true. Aisha moved into a private suite inside the palace weeks before the ceremony. Her days were filled with fittings, beauty treatments, and endless rehearsals for the events. She wore designer gowns, diamond jewelry, and perfume worth more than her entire year's salary back in Mumbai. Yet, despite the glamour, her heart carried a quiet dread. Every time she looked at her reflection, she wondered if Rashid would still love her if he knew the truth she had buried. She tried to silence her thoughts with the noise of celebration, but guilt had a way of creeping through the cracks. On the day of the wedding, the palace was transformed into a dream. The ceremony took place under a canopy of white roses and golden lights, with hundreds of guests watching in admiration. Rashid looked proud and content, his smile genuine and full of hope. Aisha, radiant in a gown that sparkled like sunlight, managed to keep her composure. To everyone else, she was the picture of grace and happiness. But behind the veil, her hands trembled slightly, her mind haunted by a single fear, that the life she was stepping into was built on a secret that could destroy them both. As the final preparations for the marriage ceremony took place, an important step remained: the mandatory premarital medical examination required by Emirati law. The test was a routine process, meant to ensure both partners were healthy and free from infectious diseases before marriage. When Sheikh Rashid's assistant brought Aisha the documents to sign, her heart nearly stopped. The form mentioned a full health screening, including HIV testing. Her fingers trembled as she read the details. For the first time, the world she had built so carefully seemed ready to collapse. She knew she could not risk the truth coming out. A confession now would not only destroy the marriage, but humiliate both families before the world. In desperation, Aisha reached out to an old friend from Mumbai, a technician who worked at a small private clinic. She begged him to help her, promising to send money in return. Within days, he sent her falsified documents, stamped and signed, stating she was completely healthy. The report looked authentic enough to pass inspection. Aisha printed it, attached her signature, and handed it to the Sheikh's assistant with a calm smile that hid her racing heartbeat. The Sheikh's family, satisfied with the paperwork, didn't question a thing. They trusted her character and focused on the wedding festivities. Rashid himself was too in love to think of anything else. To him, Aisha was pure, graceful, and perfect. The altered medical report was filed away, forgotten among the countless documents that made up the grand event. When Aisha realized the deception had worked, relief flooded her for a moment. But that peace was short-lived. Deep down, she knew the truth couldn't stay buried forever. Every lie had an expiration date, and hers was ticking closer with every beat of her heart. After the wedding celebrations ended, Sheikh Rashid and Aisha left for their honeymoon in the Maldives, a paradise of turquoise waters and golden sunsets. The media followed their journey with fascination, calling them the dream couple of Dubai. Their photos appeared on magazine covers, Rashid in white linen, smiling confidently, and Aisha beside him, glowing in designer dresses. To the outside world, everything looked perfect. The palace staff described Rashid as more relaxed than ever, and Aisha appeared to have finally embraced her new life of luxury and love. Yet, beneath the calm surface, unease began to grow. In the privacy of their ocean villa, Rashid spoke often about their future, their plans to start a family, to build a new home, and to spend more time away from business pressures. Aisha listened, smiling softly, but every word about children cut deep into her conscience. She wanted to share his dreams, but the truth she carried made each promise feel like a silent betrayal. She took her medication secretly, hiding the pills deep inside her vanity case, terrified he might notice. A few days into the trip, Rashid began to complain of fatigue and mild fever. The couple assumed it was the result of travel stress or sun exposure. He dismissed it lightly, not wanting to spoil their time together. But Aisha couldn't ignore the anxiety rising within her. Every cough, every tired sigh felt like an omen. She prayed it was nothing serious, that fate would somehow protect her secret. As the waves crashed gently outside their villa, Aisha sat awake at nights staring into the darkness, haunted by a question she could no longer silence. What if her past was already beginning to follow her into this perfect new life? When Sheikh Rashid returned to Dubai from the honeymoon, his mild fever refused to go away. He felt weak, exhausted, and unusually pale. His personal physician, Dr. Karim, who had cared for the family for years, insisted on running a full series of medical tests. Rashid, confident it was just a viral infection, agreed without concern. But when the results came back, Dr. Karim's expression changed completely. He asked for the tests to be repeated at 2 different laboratories, and when all showed the same outcome, he knew the truth could no longer be avoided. Rashid had tested HIV positive. The doctor hesitated before telling him, fearing the reaction such news would cause. When Rashid finally saw the report, he was stunned into silence. It made no sense. He had always been careful, and his premarital tests had been clear. Questions began to flood his mind. How could this have happened so suddenly? Who was responsible? He demanded answers. Dr. Karim explained that the infection appeared recent and likely transmitted by someone close. Rashid's world started to collapse. The only person that close to him was his wife. Quietly, and without telling Aisha, Rashid ordered the same tests to be done for her. He arranged it through a private laboratory under the pretense of a routine follow-up. Within days, the results arrived, confirming his deepest fear. Aisha was HIV positive, and the infection had clearly existed before their marriage. The reality hit Rashid like a blade. She had known. His love turned to disbelief, disbelief to fury. The trust that once bound them shattered instantly. Rashid locked himself away for days, replaying every moment of their relationship. The laughter, the vows, the wedding, all now felt like a carefully constructed lie built on silence and betrayal. When the truth reached the Al-Mansur family, their world erupted in anger and humiliation. Sheikh Rashid, still in shock from the revelation, confided in his elder brother, who immediately informed their father. Within hours, the household turned from celebration to chaos. The once proud family, admired for its prestige and influence, now felt disgraced. To them, the scandal wasn't only about deception, it was about honor. The idea that their son, a respected sheikh, had married a woman who had knowingly concealed a life-threatening illness felt like an unforgivable insult. Servants whispered in corners, relatives refused to speak openly, and security was instructed to limit access to outsiders. The atmosphere inside the palace grew tense and suffocating. Aisha was summoned to meet Rashid's family. Her once welcoming in-laws now looked at her with cold disgust. They demanded explanations, but she said little, her silence only deepening their anger. She feared not just their rage, but the legal consequences if the truth went public. Under Emirati law, knowingly hiding a medical condition like hers before marriage could result in criminal charges. The family saw her silence as confirmation of guilt. Word of the situation began spreading quietly among close associates and wealthy circles in Dubai. Rumors twisted the truth, turning her into a villain in every story told. Rashid's mother collapsed from shock, and his father threatened to annul the marriage immediately. The sheikh's business partners urged him to contain the scandal before the press discovered it. Aisha was kept isolated in her room, cut off from the outside world, unsure what would happen next. What began as a fairy tale had now turned into a nightmare of shame, fury, and betrayal. Every moment that passed drew the storm closer, and Aisha knew there was no way to escape its wrath. A month after the revelation, silence fell over the Al-Mansur estate. The once bustling palace was now shrouded in tension and unease. Rashid rarely appeared in public, avoiding meetings and social events. His reputation had begun to suffer quietly as whispers spread among Dubai's elite. His business associates noticed the change. His temper was shorter, his gaze distant, his words colder. Inside, he was consumed by a mix of betrayal, humiliation, and despair. He could not accept that the woman he had loved so deeply had deceived him in such a cruel way. One evening, Rashid sent a message to Aisha, asking her to meet him at their private villa on the outskirts of Dubai, the same villa where they had spent their happiest days after the wedding. She hesitated but went, hoping for reconciliation or at least a chance to explain herself. The night was unusually quiet, the desert winds brushing against the walls as if warning of what was to come. Servants had been dismissed early, leaving the couple alone in the vast house. Neighbors later recalled hearing a loud argument, the sound of glass breaking, and then silence. By morning, the housekeeper arrived to find the front door slightly open. Inside, the villa was in disarray. On the marble floor lay Aisha's body, motionless and pale. A broken wine glass was beside her, stained with blood. There were no signs of forced entry, and Rashid was nowhere to be found. His car was missing, his phone left behind. The authorities arrived within hours, sealing off the property. What had happened inside that villa was unclear, but one thing was certain. The love that once seemed unbreakable had ended in violence. leaving only questions and the echo of tragedy behind. The disappearance of Sheikh Rashid Al Mansour sent shockwaves across Dubai and beyond. Within hours of Aisha's death, his name dominated international headlines. The police launched a massive investigation, sealing airports and monitoring border crossings, but the Sheikh seemed to have vanished without a trace. His family used their influence to control the narrative, insisting he was cooperating with authorities, yet no official statements confirmed his whereabouts. Rumors swirled. Some claimed he had fled by private jet to Morocco, while others whispered that he was hiding somewhere in the desert, protected by loyal guards. Every lead led to another dead end. The villa where Aisha had been found was thoroughly examined. Forensic teams discovered fingerprints only belonging to the couple, confirming no outsider had entered that night. There were traces of alcohol in the broken glass beside her body, and bruises on her arms suggested a violent struggle before death. Still, without Rashid's testimony, the full story remained incomplete. The media speculated endlessly, painting Rashid as either a furious husband driven to madness or a heartbroken man who couldn't live with his shame. Meanwhile, Aisha's family in Mumbai demanded justice. Her mother wept publicly, begging the Dubai authorities to bring her daughter's killer to account. Under intense pressure, the Sheikh's family arranged for Aisha's body to be flown back to India, wrapped in silence and guarded by lawyers. The case grew colder with time, as powerful connections blocked further investigation. Months turned into years, and the mystery deepened. Some believed Rashid had escaped with help from within his own circle, while others insisted he had taken his own life. Yet, without proof, his disappearance remained one of Dubai's most haunting unsolved mysteries. Years passed, but the story of Sheikh Rashid Al Mansour and Aisha Khan never faded. What was once celebrated as a royal love story had turned into one of Dubai's darkest mysteries. The palace where their wedding took place remained locked, its grand halls collecting dust and silence. Locals whispered that the place was cursed, that no wedding held there would ever bring happiness again. The Al Mansour family quietly withdrew from public life, selling off several of their properties and avoiding the media. Despite their wealth and power, they could not erase the stain that the scandal had left on their name. In India, Aisha's story became a warning often repeated in hushed tones, a reminder of how secrets can destroy lives, no matter how grand they appear. Her mother still visited her grave every Friday, placing fresh flowers and praying for peace. Journalists and crime enthusiasts tried to revive the case over the years, each offering new theories. Some claimed Rashid had started a new life under a false identity in North Africa. Others believed he had been secretly killed by his own family to silence the disgrace. The truth, however, remained buried beneath layers of money, fear, and mystery. The case eventually inspired documentaries, podcasts, and online debates, but none could uncover what truly happened that night in the villa. Police files sat closed in government archives, gathering dust. Yet, even after all the years, people still spoke of the tragedy, a love story that began with luxury and promises but ended in blood and disappearance. For some, it was a tale of betrayal. For others, it was a curse. But for everyone who heard it, the wedding of Sheikh Rashid and Aisha Khan remained unforgettable, a haunting reminder that lies can outlive even love.